Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar about the Online Integrated Marketing Communications Program at St. Bonaventure University. In today's discussion, we'll cover an overview of the IMC program, talk a little bit more about the need for IMC in the marketplace, and take a look at some real IMC student projects to give you a better idea of what you'll learn in the program. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. You're in broadcast-only mode, which means you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. Please feel free to type any questions that come to mind into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen at any point throughout this presentation. We have reserved time at the end to go over your questions, but we really want this to be interactive, so if anything pops into mind throughout the presentation, please do enter your question below. And we hope you enjoy the presentation. Here are our speakers for today's webinar. I'm Ashley Zeman, I'll be your moderator. I'm joined by Mary Catherine Howard, an admissions counselor for the program, who I'm sure many of you have already spoken with. We're also joined by Professor Shelley Jack. Professor Jack runs her own marketing consultancy specializing in branding and integrated marketing strategy. She's a passionate advocate for St. Bonaventure's IMC program and has served on the faculty for over 8 years and is a member of the program's first graduating class. As an educator and practitioner, Jack has worked for a wide range of brands and organizations such as Steve's Organic Iced Tea, Brewster's Real Ice Cream, Cutco Cutlery, Zippo Manufacturing Company, North Carolina State University, Northern Virginia Community College, St. Bonaventure University, and international brands such as Intel, Equifax, and Hewlett-Packard. Jack regularly works with her clients on a range of marketing needs such as branding, content marketing, digital and social media strategy and planning, SEO strategy, and marketing technologies integration. We're also joined by Professor here at St. Bonaventure. Professor Harris brings 14 years of higher education teaching experience at both the undergraduate and graduate level. She also has 15 years of experience in marketing communications, working for 3 different Fortune 500 companies, including Bausch & Lomb, Rich Products, and Mattel. As a practitioner, Harris has launched over 500 products and developed marketing communications plans that include all mediums such as TV, print, and digital. As an educator, Harris brings a unique focus on branding and engagement of audiences through stories. She's especially passionate about the power of visual communication and digital storytelling. Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll talk a little bit about St. Bonaventure, give you an overview of the IMC program, then dive into some real IMC student projects. We'll wrap up with career outcomes of the program and take a closer look at the curriculum, then discuss admissions next steps. Finally, we'll leave time for any questions you may have. With that, Mary Catherine, I'll turn it over to you now to tell us a little bit more about St. Bonaventure, the IMC program, and the online experience.
Thanks, Ashley. So here at St. Bonaventure, we are a private, nonprofit Catholic institution, and we were founded in 1858. We are a traditional ground campus university that does offer this program through our online program. So we are currently ranked #1 in the state of New York and #2 in the North for Best Regional University Values by U.S. News and World Report. What that means is that with St. Bonaventure, you will be getting a high-quality education for a reasonable cost. We are promoting academic excellence through personalized attention. So we will go through in depth what that looks like in the IMC program a little bit later. And we are an accredited university with the Middle States Commission of Higher Education. The IMC program in particular is 35 credit hours that consists of 9 core courses, 2 electives, 1 fieldwork course, and 1 capstone course. So what those fieldwork and capstone courses are will be talked about a little bit more by the program staff, but it's the where you're doing a graduate presentation. So this program is 100% online. Despite the name Fieldwork, you are 100% online. And the program is designed to be completed in about 2 years. So it is designed for full-time working adults, and we want to make sure that our students are able to get skills that they can apply directly to the IMC world, so you'll get a lot of professional practice and development. With the online experience here at St. Bonaventure, we have what's called a 7-1-7 model. So you'll take one class at a time for 7 weeks, you have a 1-week break, and then you start your next class for 7 weeks. With that model, we encourage students to participate in our online forum, as well as their individual assignments where you will do your practice presentations and assignments. So with our program, there are no set login times. That means that you are able to work at a time that works best for you, as long as each week you can complete the required assignments. Our professors are also really engaged with our student body and will be available to communicate with you and give you feedback on your process in the program. So Professor Harris, can you talk a little bit about how you use the or how you communicate with your students in the online classroom?
Sure. So we have a couple of different formats that we use for interacting with students. We have discussion forums that are open to all students, and I communicate back and forth with students. I'm able to write to them with like a text, and they're able to respond to me. So that is one way. Many times I might ask a question of the whole class and then let the whole class respond, and then I'll do something like a voice recording. So this way I can pull in many students' responses and thoughts and ideas all into a singular thought. And so then I'll just upload a voice recording, which looks like a little podcast to the student. When the student logs on, there'll be maybe a 4-minute podcast from me where I'm able to discuss our discussion that's happening in the forum. Another way, of course, is through video conferencing. So we use the platform Zoom, and we're able to meet with students either in a one-on-one fashion, which I will typically do as we get closer to their final defense. Many times students want to meet with me, and so I'll just set up a Zoom session. And I've also used the Zoom classroom as like a virtual office hour. So maybe letting students know that I'm going to be in the office Monday evenings between 8 and 9 o'clock in the evening, knowing that most people are working adults, they're not going to have time during the day. So I put my virtual office hours in the evening, and then I just kind of show up in Zoom. If people have questions, they can click on the link, they can jump in the office with me, and then we can discuss whatever they need to discuss. So those are just some of the ways that we use technology and make sure that we're interfacing with students.
Great, thank you. And I think that really shows how St. Bonaventure is dedicated to making sure that our online students still have that same connection and experience that our on-campus students will get. So I know many students are happy to hear about all of the different ways that you, as professors, communicate with them.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Mary Catherine. Now we'll turn it over to Professor Jack to tell us more about the IMC program and the need for IMC in the marketplace.
Hi, everyone. Yes, the IMC program is one that we are very proud of and has been around at St. Bonaventure since 2003. I am a proud graduate of the first IMC class and then later had an opportunity to be a part of the faculty. So I have had the privilege of observing and watching the IMC program grow and evolve over the years, and it really has. So I think that's important to you because we want you to recognize that not only were we a pioneer in this space, but we have been doing it for a long time and have a proven track record within integrated marketing communications as a master's degree. And we've also been teaching this class, or excuse me, this program online for a while as well. So we have some true core competency and skill both within integrated marketing communications as well as within the online environment. And one of my favorite things about teaching in this program is the camaraderie and respect that I have with the faculty. And one of those reasons is because not only are the faculty scholarly, they have the academic credentials, but they also have the industry chops. And I think that's really important because this is a program where you will receive not just the academic foundations, but the practical applications of why this degree matters and how it fits into, your workplace today. And I think that's been very valuable to students because they come out of the program and feel prepared and relevant. Speaking of the workplace, I did want to point out, we are aware and always paying attention to what's happening, how integrated marketing communications is changing within the larger context of, our world. And you've observed a lot of those changes over the years, I'm sure. I'm sure many of you are already practitioners in the field of marketing communications, and you see those changes happening. And as we observed those changes, it was important that we recognize we had to reflect those changes in our integrated marketing communications program as well. And so we have set out and continue to work on doing that. One of the things that you see is the inundation of facts and data that are available to us. And so we know we have a lot of access and information, to information rather. What I see all the time in my consulting though is that we have a great gap, a great need to make meaning from the data, to create significance from that information. So it's not just about collecting information, but then understanding what to do with it from a marketing perspective. And that's really where that higher level master's degree comes in, and being able to be a senior leader that understands how to make good strategic decisions. And I think that's a part of, understanding not just utility, but the need for that significance. As a part of what we do teach in IMC is some ideas that perhaps you're not as, you don't hear as much in a world where we tend to be very linear thinkers. This is definitely a program for people who are both left brain and right brain thinking. We don't like to think that, you're only one side or the other. Part of what we seek to teach in this program is how to evolve all of your skills on both sides of your brain, but speaking also specifically to understanding what to do with all the information that we have as marketing professionals. And we talk about finding significance as a creative skill because people often tend to think that if we say that this degree is focused on creativity, you might think that's about design or art or the way an ad looks, for example. But really being creative and practicing and building the skill of creativity is so much more than that. And so much more than that in a business or professional organization as a marketing professional. There are a lot of nonlinear ways that we develop our skill set and learn to invest in creativity, to have that nonlinear approach, to have the ability to make meaning, to create. We talk a lot about, being the person who is running the symphony, if you will, standing there in front, taking all these disparate parts and putting them into something that sounds beautiful and has a wonderful strategy and plan behind it. And that is the skill that we build within this program. So we do, once again, to summarize, focus on not only the understanding the research, understanding our audiences, but really weaving all of that together. And you're going to see how we take each of those parts and bring them together when we show you some of these student examples coming up.
Great, thank you. We'll turn it over to Professor Harris to showcase some real IMC student projects.
Thank you. That was a great segue, Shelley, into the student work that I have to show you, because I think the best way to showcase what IMC is and what our IMC students are able to do is by looking at their work that they showcase to us in their final defense presentations. And so what you see here is a selection of work from final defenses, some elements that I want to speak to you about. These are the covers of their final defense presentation, or the first slide maybe. How this works is somewhere in the beginning of the program, first or second course, the student decides on a client that they would like to work with for their IMC final defense project. The client is the student works with the client throughout the entire program, and they weave the learnings from their classes into their IMC plan as they go. Now, clients can range from small to medium-sized companies, and they can be in any industry, from traditional product industries to service industries, virtual companies, or human services. Any of those are fine. And really, the client is up to the student. The student can choose the client. Generally, we suggest you find a client that you think has a communications problem that you would like to solve for them. So basically, that's what you're seeing here, the covers, the beautiful work that they've done here. The starting point for all IMC campaigns is research. Everything that we teach is grounded in research and data. So students conduct both secondary and primary research to support their strategic vision for their plan. We emphasize the importance of data and making decisions and recommendations based on it. So what you see here is some primary research from a student plan and some of the results of their research. Analysis is just as important as the research. And so we teach the students many different analysis techniques. So here you see a situational analysis and also, a competitive situational analysis, and also a perceptual map. You can see that these analyses are pretty in-depth. I know you can't read this slide, but there's a lot going on here, because we really help the students to dig deep into the marketing environment and to touch on the facts and the data, or maybe some of those left-brained things, some of those utility things, as well as touching on consumer insights and perceptions like we see in our perceptual map, or some of those right-brained things. It's the combination of both the data and the facts, as well as the insights and the perceptions, that helps to distinguish an IMC student in their thinking as they approach strategy. This is important because this type of research, analysis, and thinking helps to develop empathy for the customer. So here you can see, again from student work, here is the marketing communication strategy for their customer. And this is really important because this understanding of the customer, that's where the messaging is going to. It's going out to the customer. You need an intimate knowledge of this person and in order to create genuine and relatable messaging strategy. So our research and our data and our analysis helps us to develop a clear understanding of the customer's lifestyles, their beliefs, their values, the attitudes that drive consumer decision making, so that students are able to then create messages that resonate with this target market. So this is really important because it gives the student the ability to make a creative work plan. So here's an example of a creative work plan. It's not so much, I know you can't read all of the words here, but the creative work plan is a pivotal place in the development of the IMC plan, because this is really where we take the data and we give it the significance. We give it that message, those words, that language, those visual communicators that all of a sudden make the message come alive to an audience. If you just think of the number of advertising messages that you might see in a particular day, whether it's on television, through social media, or in your environment, and yet every once in a while one of them stops you. And that's because that message has delivered significance. And so this creative strategy and this creative work plan becomes the place where our significance is established. And so we work with our students to really understand the importance of this document and all of the research and data that is backing this document up. From here, students then go on to create their communication pieces. And so here is an example of traditional advertising. Here's a print campaign from a student's final defense presentation for the Lucille Ball Foundation. And so you can see there are several print advertisements here, as well as an outdoor campaign that was lining the streets in Jamestown, New York. So maybe some very traditional advertising. Or digital. Students are also taught how to create and engage with audiences in the digital environment. So whether it's engaging consumers through an SEO strategy, or maybe influencer activation, getting influencers to actually help carry and augment your message forward in this digital sphere, or content marketing, content that stops, that engages, that makes people, drives people to action, whether that's going to a website or forwarding it or retweeting it or sharing it. So the digital sphere, just as important. And really, at all consumer touch points. We touch on all of these in the IMC program so that students are aware where consumers are and how to deliver a message, whether it's a website, a storefront ad, a billboard, radio, the digital space, any sort of traditional space. All of these are touch points, and all of these are where the messages are delivered. And so what you're seeing here in the slides that I've shown you is the actual work that the students created for these very specific interactions. Now, each one of these touch points are going to be different based on the client. And so we need to prepare our students to, number one, to be able to understand and research and know that customer for that client, and then to be able to create messaging that is going to resonate with the client's customer where they are. And so it's not so much a set place that students are going to develop all of these different things, but rather it's the the student's recommendation on where the messaging needs to appear in order to be relevant for that customer. I think at this point I turn it, oh wait, I got one more slide, sorry about that, because I can't forget that all of this is done with an eye on budget and the ability to measure. It's useless if our students can do all of these great things and not understand the impact that they may have on a business. And so we focus just as much on the budget and wise investment decision making, as well as the analytics, using things like Google Analytics, social media analytics, and financial analytics to make sure that students develop plans that deliver a return on the investment for their client, and that also deliver success, whether it's visits to a website or actual sales of a product, whatever those success measures are. So I think at this point now I'm going to turn it back over to Professor Jack.
Hi, yes, one of the things that we did want to be sure to highlight today was some of the types of titles and roles that you will see from our IMC graduates. These are actual titles from some of our alums. And one of my favorite things about working in the field of integrated marketing communications has been just the diversity of what I'm able to do with this degree and working within this field. And you can see even just within this list how many directions that you can go when you're studying in this field and when you're working in this field. And also one of the things I've really enjoyed is how dynamic and evolving marketing communications is. And there are so many things happening, not only in the digital marketing space, but even in traditional marketing that are just constantly evolving and growing and providing new opportunities for marketing communication professionals. And once again, this list kind of helps demonstrate the diversity and dynamic nature of the field.
Thank you. And Professor Harris, if you could take us through the curriculum a little bit more, that would be great.
Yes, I would be happy to. I think Professor Jack does a great job with those titles. You can really see that the person who has the IMC degree comes out with both the strategic mind being very well exercised, as well as the creative mind being very well exercised. And if you look at those titles, would you mind, or maybe I'll just go back real quick, you can see that these are jobs that could be considered creative, but every single one of them based in strategy, based in data. So our degree really is this nice blend of both the left brain thinking and the right brain thinking. And I think it's a real differentiator in the marketplace. There's not many degrees that do this. And so let me just take a minute to talk about the curriculum that does deliver the IMC mindset. We start with a series of courses that we call Finding. And these courses help students find what is needed to be a successful IMC practitioner. From finding their voice as a professional communicator, to finding the path to understanding consumer behaviors. Consumer behaviors are integral to understanding what messages to create and to deliver and how to deliver those. To finding the consumers where they're at. Are they in the digital realm, the social realm, the physical realm? All of these are important courses to finding and understanding the tools that you need to be a successful IMC practitioner. We have our Finding Depth fieldwork course that you mentioned early on. This is a self-directed course with faculty guidance where you do conduct your primary research and you are digging deep into the marketplace to understand the nuances of your particular client, their consumer, the attitudes, the behaviors, the things that go into their consumer decision making. After that point in the curriculum, we turn to an embracing strategic thinking, embracing analysis. We teach students to use what they found and then put it into strategy and use analysis to define it. And then probably most importantly, embracing your talent to create that messaging built on the strategy and the research that you have. And then the last part, we help them to integrate it all together into one cohesive IMC plan, integrating your client's needs, making sure that you don't forget what is it that your client is trying to achieve, how much money do they have to achieve this with, stay within your budget, make sure you deliver success. And all of this allows the student to master the marketing communications field and most importantly, to show mastery of the field in their final project, in their defense of their IMC plan. So that's our core curriculum and the required courses that we have. We also offer elective courses to leave room for students so that they can choose to have more of what they came looking for, whether it's something like data analytics that they want to understand better, or maybe digital and mobile communications, maybe the visual creative communications aspect speaks to them, or maybe creating user experiences with public relations. And of course, being a Franciscan college, it's really important to us that we also educate students in the ethics of communications in today's global society. And so we have a nice selection of electives as well that students can then add to the core courses to really deliver the skill set that they are looking for to differentiate themselves in the marketplace.
Great, thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. So I wanted to have Mary Catherine speak here now to the application process and next steps. What do we need to do, Mary Catherine, if we're interested in moving forward with the program?
So the first step in the admissions process for any of the online programs here at St. Bonaventure is to talk with an admissions representative. And we can speak to you about the details of the program, a little bit like we did in this program, but even more in depth. And then we'll move through the application process. So the application process for this program involves completing the online application, providing official transcripts from all colleges and universities attended, and then you will write a 500 to 750 word essay describing your interest in pursuing the IMC program. Students must have a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution, and there are no GRE requirements.
Okay, and tell us, obviously we're at the end of the year here, any advice in terms of application deadlines or upcoming start dates? What should we do to get our stuff in?
Yes, so we have our next start date on January 21st. There is definitely still time to apply for that start date. The application process, as you can see, is pretty simple, but it does involve reaching out and getting transcripts from other universities. So as we get closer to the holiday season, it gets more difficult, obviously, to get those in. It takes a little bit longer. So we would highly encourage all students to start the process as soon as possible so we can get you an acceptance decision, hopefully within a couple of days of your file being completed.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, well now it's time for our question and answer session. So friendly reminder, if any questions have come to mind throughout the presentation, do enter those into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And it does look like we've gotten a couple questions here already. So the first question is, as an online student, can my client work include projects that might benefit my current employer? Any thoughts on that, Heather or Shelley?
Yes, I'll take that. This is Professor Harris. Yes, it certainly can benefit your employer. We're not opposed to your client being your employer, and many students actually will do that. We encourage students to choose a client where there is a nice and open line of communication so that the student can get the information that they need to create the best plan possible. Our only request is that the work is the student's work and not the company's work, so not that somebody else in the company is doing the work for them.
Okay, great. And our next question is in regards to the field work. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the field work entails and how many hours students can expect to devote to that process weekly?
Sure, this is Professor Harris. I'll answer that one again. So the field work, it comes immediately following your research course. And I have taught the research course many times, so feel qualified to talk about this. In the research course, we learn all about how to conduct primary research, all of the different tools that you can use to conduct primary research. We develop a research proposal or a research plan and the tools that we would use. The tools could be a focus group, or the tools could be a survey, or maybe a content analysis, or maybe some sort of observational research. It just depends on the client. And in the course, that's what we discuss. What would be best for understanding the consumer that the client is serving. And so then the field work follows immediately upon that, which is dedicated time for the student to then conduct that research. So the amount of time that the student would spend is going to vary depending on the type of research that they're doing, but it is a 7-week period where there's a focused effort by the student to get the research done. There's guidance offered by faculty, but we do call it a fieldwork period because there's not necessarily a grade attached to this course so much as there is completion of their primary research. And so if they're conducting focus groups, they can schedule those focus groups whenever is convenient for them. If it's nights or weekends, they can schedule those focus groups, record the focus group data, and then in their spare time look at that and do their analysis. If it's a survey that they want to put out online, they can take the time in those 7 weeks to get the survey out there and make sure that they get enough responses so that they have a significant sample size that they can draw their analysis and their results from. If it's observational research, they can use those 7 weeks to set up the observations that they want to do, so on and so forth. So I hope that answers the question and gives you a sense. It's a time period for the student to work on something that they have developed in the class just prior. And there is faculty guidance. Myself or another faculty member, Dr. Hoffman, are the people who guide them through that fieldwork period.
Yes, thank you. That's very helpful. Next question is, how is this program different than an MBA in marketing?
This is Professor Jack. Yes, I can help to answer that question.
Great,
I think,
thank you.
First, I would say that I think both an IMC degree and an MBA are great options. I think it is a matter of, how you wish to distinguish and differentiate yourself in the marketplace. One of the things that I think is different about the IMC program is that it does give you a differentiation. It's certainly a conversation starter. Often people want to know more. When you say an MBA, people immediately know what that is. When you say I'm studying to be a master's in integrated marketing communications, people are intrigued. They want to understand what that is and how it applies. And it also gives you an opportunity to really be an expert in this field. And so if that is your area of interest, I think that's important. An MBA tends to be a broader scope of course, a master's in business administration. It is not specifically focused on marketing communications. And I think that you will also find, as some of the things we've already highlighted today, that an IMC degree does tend to be more focused on providing a stronger skill set to people who are more creative, people who are looking to be the person who makes meaning from data, people who are looking for a degree that allows them this more nonlinear and merging of both left brain and right brain skills. And so it does provide an opportunity for those people who are seeking to do something that's a little bit different, but also still very practical, still very much applicable and relevant and in demand within the marketplace. So I think that it kind of comes down to providing a niche, and especially if you are seeking to build out your skill set as a marketing communications professional.
Thank you. And our final question, what should I expect in terms of time commitment to the program, looking at homework, exams, how much time should students be looking to devote to the program each week?
This is Professor Harris again. I'll take a stab at answering that. I myself have taken many online classes as well, and so I think there's a couple of things that are easy enough for students to do to be successful in the online environment while being working professional at the same time. And I think one is to create a schedule for yourself, the days that you know you're going to step into the virtual classroom. And so I always recommend to students, most projects are usually due Sunday night at midnight, giving the student the full weekend to work on them. So I usually tell students, take Monday off. Don't do any schoolwork on Monday. Monday's a day off. Then take Tuesday and jump online, look at the resources and the materials and the readings that you need to do this week. Look at what your discussion questions are going to be. Have a sense of the work that you have to do for the week. Maybe Wednesday, jump online and post a comment in the discussion forum so that you can be part of the discussion that's happening there. Thursday, maybe you want to do some of the reading and the research that you might have to do, whether it's online research or scholarly research. And then Friday, go back into the discussion forum. And this isn't a set pattern, it's just a nice pattern. Make sure that you're part of that discussion. And then spend the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, which is probably where you'll spend the majority of your time working on the assignments for that week, whatever those assignments are. And so I found myself probably spending maybe a half an hour to an hour Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just jumping in and out of the classroom and making sure I was aware of what was happening. And then the majority of the time I would spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so maybe about 10 hours over those 3 days working on projects, whether it's a paper that you're developing or some conceptual work that you're developing for an ad campaign or creating research tools in your research class or strategies in your strategy class. So, I would say probably 12 to 15 hours a week. However, if you spread that out kind of nicely over the week as a working professional, it becomes very manageable.
Great. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. I love those tips that you have about the days of the week. That's a really nice way of looking at it. All right. Well, that's going to conclude our Q&A session for today. But again, if you have any questions at any point, please do reach out to your enrollment advisor, and they can help answer any questions you may have. And if there's anything that they're unable to answer, they can reach out to Professor Harris, Professor Jack, and get those questions answered for you. So thank you again for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and have a great rest of your day.